Hello everyone and welcome to another video of data drift. In today's video we are going to talk about how you can use Langchain and large language models to assist you in software testing. So this video is going to be an easy to use guide that you can use to automate different stages of a software test. So first we will install certain libraries, and as I mentioned that we are going to use Langchain, so we would be installing Langchain for this and some supporting libraries. Also, we would be using Hugging Face's Transformers library, so that would be installed too, and all the different support libraries that we are going to need. Now, before moving forward, let us discuss a brief about what model we are going to use. And now, the model that we are going to use is the MPT 7 billion model, chat model. It's a chat model which is based on the MPT suite of models. Now, MPT suite of models are developed by the company known as Mosaic ML. So I have given a link to the model card for MPT 7 billion chat model. So this particular model is specifically fine-tuned to behave as a chat assistant or chat model. So it is instruction fine-tuned, so you can pass in prompts and get back answers as if you are chatting with a chatbot. And you can go through this model page for more details about this model, how it is trained, which data sets it is trained on. Now moving back to our notebook. So the way that we are going to use this model is that we are going to utilize the Transformers library from Hugging Face, especially the auto model classes, the auto tokenizer, to download the tokens that we would be requiring for making inferences with the model, and the auto model for causal LM class, which allows you to download the model of your choice from the Hugging Face hub, and with some other, I would say, so with some more tricks up its sleeve, which can help you to efficiently do inferencing on your model. So basically what we are trying to do here is that from line 5 to 6 we are asking the auto model class to download the model of our choice, which is MPT 7 billion model, and now it is a big model, so we are going to utilize certain tricks for which the line 5 and 6 would come into play. So what this basically does is, now Transformers library has an integrated sub library known as Hugging Face Accelerate, which distributes your model weights across your devices. So let's say you have a GPU and a CPU and the RAM for the CPU and VRAM for the GPU. Now, by mentioning this parameters, Hugging Face Accelerate would take the model weights and then distribute it across your hard drive, your CPU RAM, and your GPU RAMs. If you have multiple GPUs, then it will utilize the multiple GPUs RAM, and if you have a single GPU, it will keep the weights in that particular GPU's RAM as well as the hard disk and the CPU RAM. Why it does that? It does that to enable you to have a distributed system on your local machine, and it tries to utilize your existing hardware to the maximum so that your GPU RAM does not uh, you know it does not give you out of memory error, right? And when you try to inference on the model, then Hugging Face Accelerate again collects all the weights from the different devices on which it had stored on your stored the models on your machine, and then brings it together to perform the inference. And I have also provided a link to the Accelerate library, so you can visit this link and understand more what the library is and how to utilize it more efficiently for your needs. Now, how to use our Hugging Face models locally with Langchain. Now, Langchain is a Python library which enables you to work with large language models and some uh, supported APIs to develop applications based on large language models. So Langchain basically orchestrates different models and different APIs together and provides you with some nice high level APIs which you can then use to build your own applications. And why it is interesting, because it saves you lots of boilerplate code, and Langchain has tons of integration with a huge number of third-party APIs, and also it has access to uh, different tools which you can use to further customize your pipeline while developing your application. So it makes it easier with its different high level and low level APIs. And yes, their official documentation is pretty well defined. You can go over here and learn more about what the library is actually capable of and what all feature it provides you with. You need to create a pipeline. Now this pipeline API is again an API provided by Hugging Face's transformers. It is a very high level API which takes in the kind of action you want to perform. For example, we are going to generate text. So the action that we are going to perform is the text. What model you would require, what tokenizer is required by the model, and the different kind of parameters that are required. And now an interesting thing to note is that the pipeline API in itself is self-sufficient. If you use only this pipeline, it will do all the jobs that you have done in all these 8 lines of code. So if you are going to use the pipeline API, you don't need to use all these things. But at the time of writing this article, Langchain does not work out of the box for local Hugging Face models, that is for the models that you have downloaded on your system. Yes, it has an API which connects you with the Hugging Face hosted inference APIs, given a token that you have to access the Hugging Face APIs that is there. But I wanted to show you all that how to use a local model that you have downloaded from Hugging Face hub. And for that, currently this is the way that we have to do all this stuff, and then additionally we have to create a pipeline, right? Now there is a parameter here, max new tokens. This decides the length of the output that you would be getting from the during the inference of your model. Now the bigger the number here, the more time the inference will take. Smaller the number, the less time the inference will take. So if you have bigger hardware, then you can play around with this number. And the next thing that we need to do is that we have to uh, wrap all of these things, I mean the pipeline, in the Hugging Face pipeline API, which is provided by Langchain. And this together provides you with an object that you can treat as a large language model. Next comes the interesting part, that is the prompting. Now the beauty of large language models is that you can just ask them to stuffs for you, and by asking I mean to provide some text, some instructions, and to do some stuff, and these texts are known as prompts, right? And the prompts decide how you steer your large language model to do your bidding. Now how to provide prompts to large language models. So large to via Langchain. So Langchain has another beautiful API known as prompt template. So what you do is that you provide the something known as the input variables, and then the template, which is nothing but the text, which is your actual prompt or your instructions. Now what is this input variable? We will come to that in a short while, but remember that this is the format in which you have to give your prompt to via Langchain to your large language models. Now then we have to create a chain, something known as a chain. Now what is a chain? A chain is a concept in Langchain that allows you to connect different modules or different Langchain components together to perform a certain task, or you can even chain together different chains to perform particular task. And the way to do is that to use the LLM chain API from Langchain, wherein you provide the language model that you want to use and the prompt template that you have just created. And then when you do the chain.run, it gives you it feeds your prompt into the large language models, does the inference, and gives you an output. Now coming back to the prompt template, I mentioned something known as input variables. Now what is this? Many a times when you are designing an application, a large language model application, you won't want your user to provide this entire text every time. So the best way to do, or the better way to provide a user experience, better user experience, is to have a format of the prompt that the user would be using regularly, and then the user just needs to provide the input variable which would be interpolated to the prompt, right? So now, say for example, I provide web application as my input variable, so it will format my given prompt and interpolate the given input variable with this. So this is what my final prompt will become, and this is what would be fed into the large language models, and the inferencing will be done. And yeah, you can see how it generates certain test cases for us, because that's what we wanted here. Now the thing to note here is that we didn't provide any context to our language model, that what the web application is all about, or in what style we need to generate our test case. But it did a good job in generating some common test cases which we would usually write given a web application. But what if we needed more context to be reflected in these test cases, or we wanted a specific format in which these test cases should be written? We can do this by providing certain examples to our large language model, which can instruct the language model to write test cases in certain way. For that, we are going to take help of another API provided by Langchain, which is known as the few-shot prompt template. What it does is that it helps you to devise a set of examples that it then formats and feeds onto the large language model to instruct it to generate text in a particular style that you want. To do that, we will create a list wherein we would be giving certain examples, in our case example of test cases, and the format that is to be provided you can decide. For this example, I have created something like this, that there would be an use case which is a business use case. For example, given a web application with single login button, write test scenarios about the login button in the web application. And then there would be a set of test cases. So test cases is the header, and then a few test cases. Similarly, I have created a few more a set of examples, and all these are wrapped up in a Python list. And these examples are themselves dictionaries, wherein there is a field and there is a value. So this is the basic format that you have to follow, but the type of example that you give, it's your own choice. Now we will take this example list, and then we will create a prompt template like we used to do here. So here we have created a prompt template. The same way we will be creating a prompt template here as well. The only difference will be that now our input variable will depend upon the examples that we have given. So you can see there are two input variables, use cases and test cases. That is because in our example we have taken two fields per example, right? One is the use case, the business use case, and one is the set of test cases that we that are examples. So these are the two input variables. And then the template here is like, we have a use case header, after which is followed by a column. We'll be using this API few short prompt template, and what we are going to do is that we are going to tell it to take our examples, which is the list that we have created here, and then our example prompt, that is the prompt template which we have created here, and then our input variables. And by doing this, we are asking Langchain to take our example list, our prompt template, and feed everything into the large language model, so that the model understands in what format we want the answers to be generated. Okay, and if you again want to see how the things will be formatted, so you can do a prompt.format and give your input, and you can see how it would be formatted and fed into the large language model. And then we will follow the same step of creating the LLM chain, where we would be giving our language model that we are going to use and the prompt that we have created here, and the inferencing will start, and yeah, the large language model generates certain test cases for us. And if you notice, these test cases are in the format that we want. Now what if we wanted something different, right? Say for example, we wanted to generate test case but in Gherkin format. Gherkin format can be considered as a domain specific language. It enables the developer to uh, you know lay down the business use cases that are supposed to be tested without using much technical jargon, so that it can be easily read by different stakeholders like non-technical stakeholders, product managers, or business stakeholders, or BAs, or other domain experts. So the way the Gherkin language looks is like this. It contains certain keywords like feature, scenario, given, when, and then. And using these keywords, we write down the different use cases or business use cases that are going to be tested. So say for example, there is a website and we want to verify the website's layout. So using the Gherkin language, what we will do, we'll write it like this. It would be feature, that is the website layout, which is the feature that we are going to test. And then the scenario would be like verify the website layout. And then we will write like what we want. So we would write given is a keyword, given a website page, when is another keyword, user visits the page, then, which is another keyword, the page should be as per the spec sheet. So in short, we want the large language model to generate test cases in this format. So what we follow the same step, that is we build a examples list. We keep the format same as before. We provide a particular use case, and the test cases now would be in the Gherkin format, or the format that we want, right? Similarly, we would build another set of examples, and then we will create a prompt template as before with all the input variables and the template, and we'll wrap everything up in the few short prompt template and ask Langchain to use our set of examples and the example prompt that we have created, and build a LLM chain, wrap everything up here, and then we will do an inference by providing our prompt. And you see how the large language model is now generating test cases in the format that we wanted. So isn't it cool that by providing certain good examples, we can ask the language model to behave the way we want it to, right? So I hope that this beginner friendly tutorial helped you to understand how to use large language models and Langchain for generating test cases for a software application. And now if you are a developer or a software tester, I believe that you can use this framework uh, to 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 integrate LLMs and Langchain into your existing testing pipeline, and it would help you to save some of your precious times. And you can maybe build a software test case generating assistant for you, right? So this is the first article in the series, and more are to come, where I am planning to explore the other stages of software testing, where we can actually integrate large language models and Langchain to assist us in developing good test cases or good test scripts, or maybe execute tests for us. I will provide a description or a link about the different resources like this notebook, which is present in Kaggle even, and the GitHub link to the same, and which you can use, and you can use it to maybe fork it and try something of your own, and do reply in the comments that what you have tried and if it was helpful to you or not. So till the next video, goodbye.